Hello, humans of the world. This is Marina with Startup Human, and today we will be talking about depression. Some of you may know that I was clinically depressed years ago, and I was able to get out of it. Unfortunately, it took me a long time because back then I was not aware of all the tools available in the world to help myself or even reach out for help. So today, what I want to focus on is obviously how to recognize depression and maybe how to prevent it, right? How to address it, whether it applies to us or people close to us. So later, when I became a certified NLP master practitioner, I learned about interesting insights that we may not know. And there are certain misconceptions about depression that I want to address today. Most importantly, today in 2022, so many disciplines, obviously science, teamed up to find a cure to depression, right? And you can see biology, chemistry, neurology, psychology, physics, they're all working together to help explain this phenomenon and what actually happens in humans. I encourage you not to stop. If you tried something, it didn't work, please look at all the possible conventional and alternative treatment strategies. If something didn't work out, do more research on other ones and maybe other groups of people who were in your shoes, what helped them. Because again, science has answers, but not all the answers yet. We're getting there. So first of all, I want to start with this paradox, right? A really big question, big picture. First, why and how does a newly born, happy, healthy baby, right, who has no concept of the world, becomes a depressed adult? And let's not stop on this particular baby. Babies all over the world, of all religions, all skin colors, and from all continents, they're prone to experience this in their lives. So something in their life messes them up, right? From the moment they're born, no one really gets a diagnosis that this baby is completely and utterly depressed. Nothing to do about it. Usually it happens later in life. And I know that there is this approach or theory that there is a chemical disbalance, right? That some people are born with. However, we do have genes that, right, that they are predisposed to one condition or another, developing it in our lifetime, but it does not happen right away when you're very little. So we are predisposed, but it doesn't mean that it's a definite diagnosis that will happen to you in your lifetime. So what usually happens, and I want to look at the next picture, it's when we start developing as humans, right? When we are just born, we have no concept of language. Our nervous system is not really developed. We don't have feelings. And in general, we don't have a concept of the world. It's later when we start explaining it through people surrounding us, our family, society, and ourselves, answering questions about how the world works. And the initial source of our concept of the world is the sensation, right? Through our five senses, experiences. So when we're very little, we like certain things and they're pleasant, right? We get food and we like the warmth. But if we don't get food or warmth, we may find that this is not a very pleasant experience in our bodies. So people around us explain what that is. So warmth, this is food, this is hunger. And they tell us what to do if we want something pleasant or we don't want unpleasant, right? So if we want more food, we start screaming, we learn this behavior. So this whole cycle of our learning about the world could be explained in 3 words: emotions, right, language, and actions. And language becomes thoughts, because not only we tell other people, we kind of discuss mentally within ourselves what is the right course of action, right? If we want certain experiences to happen again and again, or we want to avoid unpleasant ones. So what really starts to happen, we constantly start discussing things with ourselves, this kind of mental banter, right? Discussion in a way that we analyzing our behavior and behavior of other people, and obviously the sensations and how we describe that. And it gets really complicated because there are different layers within our experience. Will this particular action bring me pleasure or pain? Will this be good or bad for me, right? Will I be punished or will I be rewarded? And it definitely comes from some expectations, right, that we set for ourselves, or people around us set for us. And because we become these meaning-making machines, we are prone to interpreting our role incorrectly. And with every expectation comes failure, right, in some way, because there is fear of non-conforming. Never mind that deep down, there is really big fear of not being able to survive. So survival runs our subconscious behaviors. So with that, we can see how confusing the layers of expectations become for us. And eventually, when we know that what we expect for ourselves or what others expect of us doesn't happen, we are on our way to depression. Depression in 2 main ways: either through trauma or unmet expectations. And if it's a trauma, depression could jump at you really quickly. With unmet expectations, it could kind of creep in slowly over time. But there are several main characteristics that would definitely happen if you experience depression. The first one is it becomes very personal. And here we mean that it actually definitely pertains to us. No matter how distant the episode is and whether we were harmed directly in this instance, or something else happening many 1,000 miles away, for example, a war in a country far away, but we, through our thinking, make it personal. So either we are affected by it one way or another, or people close to us are affected. So basically, we feel that we're victims, or we suddenly feel guilty and almost like we're perpetrators, even though we didn't start it, we have nothing to do with it, but we make ourselves feel guilty that we didn't prevent it, and there is our role in what happens far away. So we make certain events personal, and then they feel unique. So it's specific to us because of our reasoning. The second one is pervasive. Pervasive means really deep and serious and also overwhelming. It overshadows other parts of our lives. For example, if we lost a job, we may really get into depression just because biologically and psychologically we think that our life is ruined. We will never be able to find a job that we deserve or as well paid. And it was unfair, even though many other points in our life are still the same. We still have our health, we still have our relatives and loved ones, but because it feels really pervasive, this one particular factor overshadows others. The third one is permanent. It feels like it's never ending. There is no stop to it, and there is no light in the coming future. Hopeless, that there is no really way out. And if there are ways out, it's not going to work for you because you feel this way, right? And finally, we feel helpless. So we can't help ourselves. We just don't have the energy. We kind of resign into this being, right? Into this helplessness. And interesting part is this: if it's really this way, then why do people take medication, right? How would medication help in this case? Well, currently, scientists stand is that our mind is primary, and our chemical reactions in our body secondary. So our mind controls our body and sends signals, neuron like messengers to different parts of our body. That's why we feel pain. We can inflict pain on our own body through thinking about some negative emotions and some effects, right, of depressive states. So how do we deal with this, right? I really want to highlight another very important explanation about depression, that depression always affects our self-worth. And usually we have a concept of self-worth, and for some people it may be very big, for some people small enough to get by, but we have some point of reference, right? And we would call it perceived self-worth based on expectations, right? So we are expected to be treated one way or another, and obviously we have maybe a set of expectations for ourselves. So certain events happen. And again, it could be one-time event, big event, or like a series of events that we don't think we deserve or should be happening. These events we internalize. So again, we make them personal. And as a result, our perceived concept of self-worth collapses. And the interesting part is this, that it's the illusion that something that happened that made me feel worse, or like my self-esteem was zero, right? And I was somebody and I became nobody, nothing. Again, this is the illusion of our mind. And say if we had one unit, right, of our perceived self-worth, after this particular event or series of events, it becomes zero. So the interesting part is that true self-worth never changes. It's always within us, right? It's infinite. However, that's why we call depression as a mind game. It's an illusion. It makes us feel that those expectations that we had for ourselves and we didn't fulfill made us less of a human being, right? Or not worthy human being. And this is the main illusion or a game of our mind that we need to work on. So how do we solve this? Well, through two main steps. First one, you see the light bulb, right? It's the insight. And the second one is the muscle or practice. And let me give you a little bit more detail about both of them. So the insight, in psychology, we call it cognitive distortions, right? So all those expectations that you received or created in your childhood from people around you, your partners, and maybe co-workers, it was tied to your self-worth. The condition was you have to fulfill those expectations, right? And we always use certain assumptions. And again, there are some kind of flawed thinking, right? That maybe incorrect interpretations. If you only have the insight, this new insight that your story is wrong, your assumptions are wrong, whatever happened has nothing to do with your self-worth. We all make mistakes, right? Shitty things happen. And there is a way out. You just need, after falling down, you just need to get up and pull yourself together and start living again, right? If we get examples of others in similar situations, right? Shaking off those kind of conflicting expectations in our lives, we can create a new perception, okay? That's not permanent. Nothing is permanent and actually not personal, okay? So people who have good resilience skills, they can generate that insight on their own when something adverse circumstances happen. Other people need a nudge, or the idea has to be planted into their minds, and they need to be shown examples. It could be done in many different ways, through therapy, people around us, even sharing stories and videos, right? People in similar situations. And again, the main idea here is that it's not all about us, right? For example, if our partner leaves us, this doesn't mean that we are worthless in love, right? We need to learn the lesson from the events that happened and events in our lives. And also think of different explanations. Maybe you're not compatible in the long run with this particular person, right? Maybe you both lacked proper skills to actually create long-lasting relationships. Or maybe you just need to reassess your patterns in relationships and also of choosing partners. Maybe you are trying to compensate for something and choose partners that give you a hard time, right? So that you need to learn that lesson. So this is done through insight. Again, cognitive distortions. We do believe everything people say, especially when we're very little, and then realizations come that certain things that we were taught may be flawed, if not totally wrong. So the second part is the muscle, right? Only with new insight, we know that we can actually break through, we can change our routines, because what usually happens when we're depressed, we give in into least resistance, right? Kind of, we call it sheer existence. So there's no resilience whatsoever. We kind of start creating these very easy routines and very often unhealthy. We need to change them. So what are the routines? Yes, sometimes we do substance abuse to help get relaxed and forget about those bad thoughts, repetitive thoughts, right? Or poor nutrition, we forget to eat, we don't sleep enough, right? We don't exercise. Yes, and repetitive thoughts, this vicious cycle, they chemically start impacting our body. And I call it the internal skunk. So we kind of lose interest in life, and the best we can is just survive and open our eyes the next day and just continue with maybe quietly sobbing, or just like bearing the thought that our life is ruined and I don't know what's the point in living, right? If it's a really serious case. So to change again our routines, we need to have that insight, right? And then start every day improving our routines. Just even sometimes through a really hard effort, just doing one more thing, right? Eating healthy and doing our regular routines in terms of work, and maybe just going for a walk, right? Talking to people, doing a little bit of effort, connecting to our senses. Because what usually happens, our feelings um, become numb, right? There is dissociation between our thoughts that are very quick, coming up with judgments and labels, right? That we're guilty or we're a victim, and our senses that are kind of numb because subconsciously we're afraid of uh, getting hurt even worse, right? So, so our body becomes a little bit numb to triggers in the world, and we just live in our mind. So we need to reconnect with our senses. Coming up with routines, right? Exercises, and again, going back to this main two: seek new material, new insight, and practice new habits. We're coming to this other interesting part that I know it's shocking, but are you ready? When people are depressed, they are very selfish. Yes, you heard it right. Selfish, because all they can think about is this sense of self that's being impacted by the events that happened, right? And our perceived self-worth going into pieces, that we were something and became nothing. And it kind of hurts, right? So the main idea is to distract our mind from focusing on self and actually shifting focus to something else, and usually someone else or other activities. Because there is always a healthy part of time that we can give ourselves to heal. And usually if it's trauma, right, if we lost something big, it's absolutely normal to go through different stages. And I listed here 5: denial, anger, bargaining, depression, acceptance. However, if we don't get help, if we just let ourselves go, sometimes we may get stuck in these stages for a long time. And it becomes really detrimental to our bodies and obviously to our mind. So it's important to change strategies, right? And remember that no one is helpless, and obviously suffering is overrated. We need to make some moves to help ourselves, because the biggest danger of depression that we will be stuck in this robot-like, senseless, mindful state where we are bitter, negative, afraid of starting new, afraid of being authentic and connecting to other humans in the world, and basically living in our artificial mind, an artificial world inside our mind, and not really feeling, not being in the moment. This is the biggest danger. Unfortunately, in some cases of heavy depression, people may live like that for the rest of their lives, not allowing themselves to trust their senses, right? And really feel the feelings. So with that, I would like to propose an interesting exercise, which is called the North Star. And for those who are not familiar and they live in a different hemisphere, the North Star is a kind of a beacon of hope, right? It's the anchor in the northern sky. It's a landmark for sailors and people who are really close to nature. And basically, the idea is to, on a dark sky, right, on a dark night, try to find North Star, and then you can find your way, right? You determine direction as it glows brightly to guide you and lead you toward a purposeful destination. So it's a symbol of hope. And with that, all you need to do is just to draw a triangle. And the first part of this exercise, you would need to write a list of activities that you really like to do. And, it could be anything from a hobby to things that you just really enjoy. For me, it's playing piano, talking to people, reading books, telling stories. The second one, you write a list of activities that you're really good at. And this is maybe that's not a hobby for you, but everyone says to you, gives you a compliment that you're really great at it. For example, I'm really good at organizing some material. I'm good at cleaning, and I'm really good at organizing events and people and being on time. And the third one, write down a list of causes or groups of people that you would like to help. And this is something that maybe you experienced as a child, or someone in your family was part of this course or suffered from something, and you were really passionate about helping. Or if you ever had the time to spend to help some people or courses in this world, you would do that. And it could be helping abandoned children, right? Or abused animals, or helping clean oceans and the inhabitants of oceans from all the pollution. So I really need you to write all three columns and look at those answers, right? So now what we need to do, you need to choose combinations of those answers and combine each one into an activity inside this triangle. And how it works, for example, when I was doing this exercise several years ago, I wrote down that I'm really passionate about people who are depressed, and I would like to help them with my organizing activities and maybe telling stories about how to overcome depression. I also wrote that I would like to participate in a nonprofit, help out with some of the stories through a blog. And there could be different combinations of all three answers into one. So try them out, test them out. So when you think about it and discuss it with someone close to you, what can you do? Could it be a hobby, right? Or do you need to join a group of people who are already working on solving some of the problems that maybe you want to help solving? And the idea is that this particular activity will be your North Star. What it really means, it should not be tied to any particular individual. It has to be a group. The reason for that, no one can be unhappy with you not doing your job too well. You will contribute the way you can. So you cannot say, oh, I won't just help my friend or my brother or my sister. Maybe you can do something in their memory, but this is something that you will not really cure overnight, right? But you will be aligned, your whole persona will be aligned to this course, right? And it will be your North Star that will guide you through the darkest moment in your life, because no one, not your family members, not people at work, no one will take it from you. You will always have that. right? And if people will be disappointed at you, or you will be disappointed with yourself, you will be leading, right? What you can, and you will be following the star to help people or courses that you chose. So what's really happening in this exercise, you are utilizing your creativity, your mastery, and meaning for your life in one. It actually puts together your mental capacity and your senses. You will be feeling through other people, through other courses. You will not be selfish, because this will be about other people, by using your senses and your talents, your skills. If you really enjoyed this exercise, feel free to read these 2 books that also have more exercises for people who are depressed, or want to know what to do to not get depressed. And don't forget that while helping others and using our skills and talents, we'll become one with the universe, with creatures around us. We will become happier, and we will become kind. Happy getting out of depression. Talk to you soon.